On this episode, we're going to... I'm about to... Oh God, what day is it? Is it a full moon? It's happening. I'm changing. And you need to... I shouldn't... We should reboot the Universal Movie Monsters!
Because that's how you get ants!
Universal Studios' The Wolfman came out in 1941. The film would spawn a number of sequels and spin-offs, with the character appearing alongside other Universal movie monsters like Dracula and Frankenstein's monster. In 2006, Universal announced they'd be bringing back the iconic Wolfman to take advantage of modern effects. They tapped Benicio Del Toro, a memorabilia collector and huge fan of the original film. The Wolfman hit some snags in production and displayed the classic indicator of a lack of faith in the project: a changing release date. Originally scheduled for November 2008, the film was pushed to February 2009 and finally to February 2010. Regardless of mixed reviews, the film still won an Academy Award for Best Makeup. Before we break out the silver bullets, let's see if we can find anything nice to say about 2010's The Wolfman. We open on a man getting attacked by a large wolf creature. Benicio Del Toro plays Lawrence Talbot, the man's brother, who returns home to see if he can find out what happened to the brother. Sir John, the father, played by Anthony Hopkins, who has dialed back the Hannibal Lecter, but only a little bit. This takes place in 1891 and has all the trappings of a dark, gothic horror movie. The thing about these gothic horror movies is that they are usually a slow burn that are more about the atmosphere, the buildup of misty moors, and isolated anxiety. In a world where we've become accustomed to fast-paced horror, the trudge through gothic-style suspense will come off as slow and boring. We meet Gwen. She was the brother's fiancée and is played by Emily Blunt, who is pretty much great in everything. I was hoping that the twist would be that she was the werewolf, but alas, no such luck. To combat the slow-moving gothic style, they get to the werewolf attacks pretty fast. A bit of a warning, the movie uses the word gypsy quite a bit, which is a racial slur. The term is time period appropriate and has more to do with the fear of the unknown and distrust of travelers during that time. Take what you will. Lawrence goes to their camp to see if they know anything about his brother's death. While he's there, the townsfolk show up to kill one of their attractions, a dancing bear, thinking that the bear is responsible for the killings. The werewolf shows up and starts killing everyone. Lawrence gets bitten. Gwen helps to nurse Lawrence back to health. Hugo Weaving shows up to town as Inspector Aberline, and we get the history on Lawrence. When he was younger, Lawrence found his mother and father in a garden, his mother having slashed her own throat with a silver razor. It drove him insane, and he went to a sanatorium for a while to deal with the issue. Given the state of these institutions during that time period, you can rest assured he didn't have a good time.
If you don't kill my father, you will kill again and again and again and again.
Lawrence goes to his mother's crypt because, well, it's gothic, and of course he does. He finds that his father has set everything up to lock himself inside. Lawrence becomes a werewolf and murders a bunch of hunters that tried to set a trap for him. The next morning, he's arrested by Aberline and taken back to the asylum. He's subjected to torture, which mental health experts at that time considered a treatment, and he comes to remember that as a child he didn't see his mother commit suicide, he saw his father as a werewolf having ripped out her throat. His time in the sanatorium, the doctors treated him as insane because he insisted that was the truth. The torture/treatment made him repress that part of the memory. One of these tortures is dunking, where Lawrence is strapped to a chair and repeatedly lowered into an ice bath. This time they're trying to convince him that he's not a werewolf. They think it's a relapse, his childhood delusions have returned. Sir John visits Lawrence in the asylum and leaves the silver razor behind in case Lawrence wants to kill himself before the full moon. This is an interesting dive into the story because it seems as though Sir John attacked Lawrence to pass on his legacy. In fact, that might be the reason he went after the brother in the opening scene. In the beginning, Lawrence is even referred to as the prodigal son. He's set to inherit the estate and now set to inherit his father's bestial nature. It was a cool angle on the story. It's not like Sir John comes off as a lonely old werewolf. It's more like the only thing he values is strength. The first son he attacked did not survive the bite. Why should he feel remorse? It wasn't his attack that caused his son to die, but his son's weakness when he failed to survive. We're about to get back into the weeds of the villain being the hero of their own story here, so don't say I didn't warn you.
I'm the bad guy. Duh.
The word hero has a connotation that comes with it. A hero typically tends towards moral goodness, so saying a villain is a hero if the story was from their perspective requires you to accept moral relativism, which you shouldn't. Sir John is a villain with a perverted idea of right and wrong, which demonstrates why moral relativism is wrong. Sir John thinks that strength is good and weakness is bad. Okay, what kind of strength? Physical strength. So, emotional strength doesn't count. And you're bad because you couldn't survive your arm getting ripped off? Who gets to decide what level of strength is constituted as good? These are some of the complications of moral relativism. It's not overtly stated, but I think it's implied that if Lawrence kills himself, it's weak in the eyes of his father. Lawrence doesn't kill himself. Instead, his doctor wants to do an evening lecture showing other doctors the effect of lycanthropy on a delusional person. When the moon is out, Lawrence won't transform, and this will help cure him of the delusion. This is probably the greatest scene in the movie. Lawrence is restrained to a chair with practically the entire medical profession watching, and he transforms.
To him, it seems very real. The subject has gone both and physically sensitizing in order
They all try to scramble away from him. The only one he kills is the doctor who's been torturing him by throwing him out a window where he's impaled on a wrought iron fence below. Oberline is back on the case. There's a chase through London, but Lawrence gets away. Gwen hides him, and he plots his return to the countryside to kill his father. There's a werewolf fight. It's pretty awesome. Lawrence wins, rips Sir John's head off, and burns the body. At that moment, Gwen arrives after checking with the gypsies on how to save Lawrence. Of course, there is no saving, only release. She shows up at the same time as Aberlin. Aberlin gets bitten. Gwen chases Wolf Lawrence into the woods. They have a tense standoff where it seems like maybe Lawrence recognizes her, but something distracts him and she shoots him with the silver bullet. He transforms back into a human as he dies. Aberlin sees all of this and has the horrible realization that since he was bitten, this is his future. Since 1941, the legend of werewolves has changed. There was a sort of viral letter where a Twilight fan ripped into the Wolfman's portrayal of werewolves because Taylor Lautner's version was so much better. As much as we'd like to make fun of Twilight fans, the mythology of monsters has changed over time. Is there really a place for nuanced horror commentary on the battle between nature and industrialization? Are you really surprised someone's upset about the change in perception of monsters when Frankenstein's monster is shilling strawberry-flavored cereal?
Frankenberry cereal is coming your way. How about a monster for breakfast today?
I'm just saying. The Wolfman is a return to gothic horror, a return to atmospheric allegory about the animalistic nature of man, the attempt to control it, and the foolishness of embracing it. As Lawrence kills his father in a blood-soaked rage, their family estate burns to the ground around them, as if burning down the entire legacy of monster movies. While not part of the intended Dark Universe reboots, the failure of the Wolfman begs the question, are these monsters outdated? Can they be relevant in a modern time? Of course they can. Not all reboots of classic monster movies can fail, right? Right? That That's all for this episode of Anything Nice to Say. Join us next time and never be ashamed to like what you like. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell for updates when we post new content. If you have a movie you love that you think is underappreciated, leave a comment and let us know if you want us to see if we can find anything nice to say. Don't forget to head over to our Patreon for exclusive deals and early access.